I never imagined these words would leave my mouth, but I regret moving into a nursing home. Not because the staff was unkind, not because the food was bland, and certainly not because the rooms were small. No, my regret runs far deeper. It's the kind of regret that creeps in late at night when the halls are quiet, when the voices fade, and all you're left with is the echo of what once was. No glossy brochure warned me. No cheerful social worker mentioned this part. Because what I lost wasn't just my independence or my privacy. I lost something far more precious. My sense of self. This isn't a rant. This is a confession. A quiet, painful, honest reflection from someone who's lived through the transition and come out with a kind of wisdom only experience can offer. So before you, or someone you love, makes this life-altering decision, I want to share with you 5 brutal, but essential truths about life inside a nursing home. Not the ones they advertise. The ones we whisper to ourselves in the silence. If you've ever wondered what really happens behind those doors, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see things very differently. And maybe, just maybe, you'll help change how we treat the people who paved the roads we walk on today. Hard truth number 1, you lose more than your freedom. When I packed my belongings into 3 boxes and stepped through the doors of the nursing home, I knew I was leaving behind a house. But I didn't know I was also leaving behind a part of myself. I traded my favorite armchair for a hospital-style bed, my kitchen for a cafeteria, and my morning walks for a hallway with handrails. You lose your ability to choose the little things. When you wake up, when you eat, when you shower. The nursing home runs on a schedule. That schedule doesn't care if you're a night owl or an early bird. It doesn't care if you love to sip tea in the garden at sunrise. The freedom to choose, to simply exist on your own terms, that's what disappears. And that freedom? It's not a luxury. It's the foundation of dignity. You see, freedom isn't just about moving around. It's about agency. It's about the ability to say no, to have a bad day, to do things your own way. In a nursing home, that agency is the first thing to go. And when that goes, your spirit follows close behind. No one tells you how much of your identity is tied up in choice. When to sit by the window, what to eat for dinner, even what music plays in the background. Here, you surrender all of that to routine, to policy, to what works for everyone, but rarely what works for you. And when that silence sets in, when you realize you can't decide the details of your day, a kind of numbness replaces your fire. It's not depression. It's not sadness. It's simply emptiness. That's what no one tells you about giving up freedom. Hard truth number 2, loneliness doesn't end, it evolves. One of the reasons I moved into a nursing home was the promise of companionship. People said, "You'll never be alone there. There will be others like you." And they were right. There are others. Dozens of them. But that doesn't mean I'm not lonely. Loneliness in a nursing home is different. It's not about being by yourself. It's about being surrounded by people and still feeling invisible. We pass each other in the hallways like ghosts. We sit in the same rooms, watching the same television, eating the same meals. But most of us are too tired, too sad, or too hurt to really connect. There's a woman here named Clara. She used to be a teacher, full of stories and songs. She gets dressed up every Sunday, sits by the door and waits. Sometimes her son comes. Sometimes he doesn't. But every week she waits. That's the kind of loneliness no one talks about. It's not cured by bingo nights or birthday cupcakes. It's the loneliness of being forgotten, of watching the world go on without you. And it's not just about family. It's about your past, your memories, your sense of place. In this building, no one knows the house you lived in for 40 years. No one remembers the neighborhood you helped build. No one understands that before this bed and these walls, you were someone with a full, living history. And that history has no place here. And when you try to share, you're met with polite nods or distracted glances. Your stories don't matter to a world obsessed with the future. But you live in the past, not because you're stuck there, but because it's the only place you were seen. Hard truth number 3, you become a patient first, a person second. When you enter a nursing home, you don't just bring your suitcase, you bring your medical chart. And from that moment forward, that chart becomes your identity. The nurses call you by room number. The doctors know your medications better than your name. You stop being Mary who loved to paint or George who played the harmonica. You become the diabetic in room 12. The stroke victim in room 18. The worst part? You start to believe it. You start to measure your worth in pills and blood pressure readings. No one asks about your passions, your regrets, your dreams. The conversation is all about your symptoms. You're no longer a whole person. You're a diagnosis on a clipboard. Even when someone does stop to talk, it's often in a rush. Between medications. Between check-ins. The time for human connection is rationed, like oxygen in a vacuum. You begin to feel like a burden, not just to your family, but to the system. Every need, every request feels like an inconvenience. So eventually you stop asking. You stop expressing. And slowly you start disappearing. You see yourself through the eyes of others. The fall risk. A fragile case. The file. And you forget the version of yourself that danced in kitchens and told jokes at parties. That part of you fades behind 4 stands and call buttons. Hard truth number 4. Family visits fade faster than you think. At first, there were visits. My grandchildren came with drawings. My daughter brought flowers. My son wheeled me around the garden. We laughed. We remembered. We pretended nothing had changed. But slowly the visits got shorter. Then less frequent. A week skipped. Then 2. Then a month. It's not that they don't love me. Life just gets busy. Kids have school. Jobs demand time. Traffic is bad. And soon, you become a memory of responsibility, a checkbox on a weekend to-do list. You wait for calls that don't come. You dress up for birthdays no one remembers. You start to forget what it feels like to be hugged just because. And even when they do visit, there's a quiet shift. Their eyes are on their phones. Their minds are somewhere else. They say, we should do this more often, but you know, deep down, you've become part of their past, not their present. You begin to dread holidays. Not because you're alone, but because you're reminded of what you once had. You're reminded of dinners filled with laughter, not silence. Of stories, not schedules. You try not to take it personally. You make excuses for them. But at night, when the hallways are quiet and the lights are dim, the silence is louder than any excuse. Hard truth number 5. It changes you forever. Moving into a nursing home doesn't just change your surroundings. It changes you. You begin to shrink, not just physically, but emotionally. You speak less, feel less, hope less. Some days you find joy. A friendly nurse, a kind word, a visit from a stranger's therapy dog. But those moments are brief, and you learn not to expect them. The hardest part is losing yourself. Forgetting what made you thrive. Your garden, your recipes, your laughter, your stubbornness, even your regrets. They begin to fade. And with them, so does your sense of self. And yet, deep down, something still stirs. A memory, a name, a song, a photo in a drawer that reminds you of who you were. Sometimes that's all it takes, a thread of the old life to pull you back, if only for a moment. You cling to those moments, because they remind you, you mattered. You still do. But it's hard, so very hard. So what do? How do we move forward? We tell the truth. We stop pretending that nursing homes are always the solution. We stop selling the idea that care equals comfort. We start demanding more, for our elders and for ourselves. Aging doesn't have to mean isolation. It doesn't have to mean erasure. We can do better. We must do better. Because one day, it'll be us. And we'll wish someone had spoken up. So I'm speaking now. For Clara. For the man in room 18. For the woman who still wears perfume every Sunday, hoping someone will notice. Speak for us. Remember us. Visit us. Fight for us. Not out of pity, but out of respect. Thank you for listening. And please, share this with someone you love. Because aging should be honored, not hidden. And every story, even mine, deserves to be heard. Let us not forget that behind every wrinkle is a lifetime. Behind every silence, a story. Behind every aging soul, a legacy that matters. Let's never stop listening. Let's never stop caring. Let's never let anyone grow old feeling invisible.